The leaderboards have not been refreshed in years. I want the leaderboards to be refreshed.
It finally happened. Stardew refreshed the leaderboards after almost 4 years. I know I'm extremely happy about this refresh. I know other racers who are happy about this refresh. They didn't fix the agility bugs, but I'm not going to restate what I said in a previous video. Anyways, because they refreshed the leaderboards, I think now is a good time to talk about racing tips and tricks, or I don't even know what you want to call it, just racing tips. Because I've been racing in this game for many years now, so I like to think that I'm at least a little qualified to talk about how to improve your racing. This is going to be broken up into different categories. I'm going to try to make it as easy to follow, so even if you're just starting out with racing, or if you know a little bit, anyone could watch this video and gain information. So, the first thing you want to learn is what makes you faster, because that is what matters. Speed matters with racing. There are 4 things that make you faster: your player level, your horse level, your player stats, and your horse stats. I'm going to talk about the stats for your horse and player first. For your horse, you have the following stats: strength, discipline, swiftness, endurance, and agility. Strength is how high and far the horse jumps. Discipline is how quickly the horse changes gaits. Swiftness is how fast the horse runs. Endurance is how much damage the horse can take. And agility is how fast the horse changes direction. For your player, you have the stats riding, command, jumping, and carrying. The riding stat improves speed and how well the horse changes direction. Command is how quickly the horse changes gaits. Jumping is how high and far you jump with the horse. And carrying is how long your horse can work before needing care and how much damage the horse can take. Years ago, Stardew made it so your horse does not need to be taken care of throughout the day, so that part of the carrying stat doesn't matter anymore. I just wanted to include it because that's what it used to mean. Player stats cap at level 25, while horse stats cap at level 13. You really want to focus on your swiftness stat and your riding stat. The base swiftness stat caps at 15 and the base riding stat caps at 24. Each piece of gear and tack will give different riding and swiftness stats. For your helmet, gloves, and boots, you want to look for riding 4. For your top, you want to look for riding 8, and pants, you want to look for riding 5. For your bridle, saddle, and saddle pad, you need to look for swiftness 3, and your horseshoes need to have swiftness 2. Even 1 point decrease on a stat can make a big difference. There are certain pieces of tack that racers tend to use to completely maximize their stats as much as possible. I don't use these pieces personally, but I feel like they are good to keep in mind in case you do want to try them out for yourself. For some of these items listed, there are only a few options available, and I will put photos on the screen of the items, the stats, and where you can get them. Screenshots are taken from the Stardew database. For your helmet, you want to look for riding 4, command 5, and carrying 3. There are multiple options to choose from. For your top, you want to look for riding 8, jumping 2, and command 4, which there's only one option, which is the green striped top, which is sold at Jarlheim in the Jarla Metal Palace. However, with that being said, tops with riding 8, jumping 1, and command 4 are also good, which there are multiple options of that. For your pants, you want to look for riding 5, jumping 5, and command 3, which there are multiple options. For your gloves, you want to look for riding 4, command 4, and carrying 1, which there are multiple options. And for your boots, there are 2 stat options that you can choose from. You can go for riding 4 and command 4, which have multiple options, or you can get boots with riding 4, command 3, and jumping 5, which there are 4 options. The 4 options are traditional Epona shoes, sold in New Hillcrest at the New Hillcrest Super Shop, full moon shoes, which are also sold in New Hillcrest at the New Hillcrest Super Shop, the Epona shoes sold at New Hillcrest in the Winterwell Shoebox, and Crescent Moon shoes, which are sold in Crescent Moon Village at Crescent Moon Fashions. For your bridle, you want to look for Swiftness 3, Strength 1, and Discipline 2, which there are 2 options, which are the Matte and Dark Western Bridle and the Matte and Dark Bridle, which are both sold at Cape West Fishing Village at the Starfish. However, bridles with Swiftness 3 and Strength 3 are also good. There are multiple options for that. For the saddle, there are 2 stat choices that people tend to pick from. That being Swiftness 3, Strength 1, and Discipline 2, and Swiftness 3, Discipline 2, and Agility 1. For the first stat set listed, there are 2 options, which is the Moorland set saddle sold in Moorland at Summer Camp Horse Equipment, and the Cowboy set saddle sold in Fort Pinta at Mayor Peanut's VIP shop. For the second stat choice, there are 3 options, which are the Pink Spring saddle sold in Moorland Summer Camp Horse Equipment, the Flowery Spring saddle sold in Goldspur Mill at the Goldspur store, and the Durable saddle sold at Cape West Fishing Village at the Happy Flounder. However, saddles with Swiftness 3, Strength 1, and Agility 2 are also good, which there are multiple options. For the saddle pad, you want to look for Swiftness 3, Agility 1, and Discipline 2, which there's only one option, which is the Jarlaheim blanket sold at Jarlaheim at the Jarlaheim Star. However, blankets with Swiftness 3 and Agility 2 are also good, which there are multiple options. For horseshoes, you want to look for Swiftness 2, Strength 3, Agility 2, and Discipline 3, which there are multiple options, including your own handmade horseshoes, which you can actually earn from a quest. You can also use horseshoes from the Trailblazers, or you can buy the horseshoes from the Master Blacksmith in the Global Shop. Again, I only look for swiftness and riding stats when making an outfit. It's all personal preference. If you feel like you perform better with any of these equipment, use the equipment. The next thing I want to talk about is picking out a horse. All horses are the same speed, however some horses have faster and or smoother jumping animations and faster hard stop animations. Some horses even have different base stats, which are good to consider for different race types. Some of my personal favorites are the Jorvik Wild Horse, yes, even after the jump change, the Generation 2 Morgan, the Generation 2 Paint Horse and Appaloosa, and the Generation 2 Pentavian. As for ponies, I like using the Jorvik Starter Pony along with the Generation 2 Halflinger. I've also gotten some high scores with the Jorvik Frisian, but I haven't done enough testing with it, so that's a horse to consider. Another horse that I forgot to mention that I like riding with is the Generation 2 Icelandic and Nixie. I find that they boost really well and they ride easy, so that's also another horse to consider. I personally prefer to use Generation 2 horses for high scoring because I feel like their animations are smoother for racing, but again, like I've been saying, it's all personal preference. Test out horses for yourself and find ones that you like. Next thing I want to talk about are the different race types. I tend to separate the races into 2 categories: paddock races and cross-country races. Paddock races are races that take place in a paddock. They tend to be shorter with more jumps and tighter turns. For example, the Paddock Island Prancer race on Paddock Island. Cross-country races are races that are throughout the span of an area. With that being said, they can also be short and have tight turns, but it is less common. For example, the Firgrove races with Minka. Some races are a combination of the two, like the Jorvik Stables Snakebite. It starts in a paddock with tight turns and jumps, and then goes throughout the span of Jorvik Stables, then ends back in the paddock. For paddock races, I prioritize the agility stat. I like to use the Gen 2 Pentavian, which has a base agility stat of 3, and the Jorvik Frisian, which also has a base stat of 3. I personally find that these horses ride really well for these types of races because they turn easier. For cross-country races, I tend to use the Jorvik Wild Horse because I find that boosts are easier to do with this horse. And for these races, boosts tend to be more important. With that being said, you can use any horse because any horse can boost. This is just my personal preference. It is also important to note that I have noticed that the jumps on newer Gen 3 horses tend to be slower than the older Gen 3 horses and Gen 2 horses. So just keep that in mind. The Generation 2 Morgan is a good all-around horse suited for both races because it has a base agility stat of 2 and it boosts very easy in my opinion. Next, I want to talk about actually learning the races. The first thing that I like to do is to learn a race normally. Figure out the route and how the race is supposed to go as intended. You don't want to learn the shortcuts to a race you don't know the route of. Next, I try to find as many shortcuts as I can by experimentation. With this being said, there are different base shortcuts to look out for. If there is a jump, see if you can run through it, clip the side of it, or bounce off the side of it to save time. If there is a downward slope, jump down it for a boost. Mess around with the hitbox of checkpoints and see if you can run beside it and have it still count. I tend to use knowledge from previous races to figure out shortcuts for new races. It is all about trial and error. Then, I look up the race on YouTube to see how others do it. Some key things to look at when watching a shortcut video is to really analyze exactly what they do. If they hit a boost at a certain spot, look at where they jump on the floor or the surrounding area and try to replicate it. If they run into a jump, notice where on the poles they run into it, along with if they take it at an angle or straight forward. Take notice of how long they turn for certain turns, where they jump certain things, gate changes if there are any, and just the overall route that they go. I really pay attention to the timing of when they do things. For example, let's look at my Jorvik stable snakebite video. You see the time I paused it at? When I do the run, I try to make sure that I'm jumping over this jump at this time at the top. If I'm not close to it, then I restart the race. It saves time in the long run, especially because this is a longer race. Taking shortcuts I found along with the ones from various YouTube videos, I then take time to do the race. What a lot of people don't see is the hours and multiple days spent on perfecting races to get the times that you see on the leaderboards. Make sure to take breaks and not to get irritated. It all takes time, and at the end of the day, it is just pixels. Sure, getting a good score is great, but not at the expense of your mental health. Now some overall tips. For all races, there is one thing that I really try to do that I find is one of the hardest things, and that is to take straight lines as much as possible. If there is a straight shot from one checkpoint to the other, you don't want to tap A or D at all, otherwise you will lose milliseconds. And when it comes to high scoring, those are very valuable. Learning the Star Stable game mechanics can be tricky, so I try to practice them while playing the game. If I am riding from one area to another, I try to boost off of objects as practice. Not only does it help you get the timing down, it is also fun to do. I personally like to do shortcuts in my day-to-day training. Learning shortcuts on a slower horse can be very helpful because it gives you time to think about the actions you need to take, especially when some races have shortcuts right after one another. Take breaks from races. Your brain needs time to process information. That goes for everything. So if you ever feel like you're at a standstill for a certain race, take a break. Walk away from the game, try a different race, do whatever. Just take a break from that race. That way it'll give your brain time to process the race, shortcuts and all. And when you come back to it, it'll flow easier. Everything takes time. Have fun with it. Don't go into racing expecting to immediately be the best. I'm very far from it, and that's okay because I have fun. Don't get me wrong, it can be discouraging, but it can also be very rewarding. Hopefully this video was at least a little bit helpful. If there's any questions, feel free to comment them and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. Happy racing!